Hello, okay, for those of you returning to the channel, welcome back, and for those of you that are new here, that have just stumbled upon this video, then thank you for joining me, and welcome to my spoiler-free review of The Toxic Avenger, a remake of the 1984 film that was written and directed by Lloyd Kaufman. This time, the remake, the reboot, is directed by a Macon, Blair, and it's a superhero black comedy splatter film. And I'm gonna surprise or maybe shock some of you here. I've not actually watched the original 1984 movie from beginning to end. I've seen bits of it. I'm very aware of the movie and what it stands for and the type of movie in which it is. It's very gory, you know, it's very graphic with the violence and sort of, the use of practical effects and all of that, which I absolutely loved about the original movie, but I've just never seen it in its entirety. But here we've got the remake. It was originally released on the festival circuit, I think back in 23, and it's only now here in the UK, the end of August, that it had its premiere at the Edinburgh Film Festival. So, the film follows janitor Winston Gooze, who, after a freak accident, transforms into a mutant vigilante known as Toxie. Armed with his mop, the unlikely hero battles freaks, gangsters, and corrupt CEOs while trying to save his relationship with his son. So, I'm going to touch on the negatives first, the stuff that I had issues with this movie, and then jump into the positives. And one of the issues that I had with this overall experience was its tone. Tonally, this movie didn't quite work for me. It didn't quite gel. Like, I loved the attempt at giving this type of movie a big beating heart. Like, it does have a pulse there, and you do care about its main characters, no matter how silly and over the top and wacky that this movie is. And a lot of that is aided by Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage in this movie is great at bringing this character to life, and along with his son, you've got a story here that you can get behind to some degree on an emotional level. Like, don't get me wrong, you know what I mean? This is nothing incredibly, emotionally complex or intense, but you've got characters that are brought to life in a way with a story where, yeah, I cared about them. And a lot of it's down to the performances from our two main actors. And I just really liked that you had that element here within this type of movie. There is an attempt at cementing a heart, a pulse within this movie. But for me, unfortunately, it didn't quite gel with the other elements of this experience, like that over-the-top, wacky, goofy, ultra-violent aspect or nature of this movie, which I absolutely loved as well. I admired that aspect of the movie. But tonally, with the characters' stories and sort of those moments with the characters, along with the kind of the wackiness and the goofiness and the silliness of the movie, they just didn't quite come together to create one consistent experience. In fact, the movie for me, it was quite a clunky, it was quite like a janky experience due to the tone, due to the issues that I had with the tone. Another element of the movie that didn't quite work for me was the humour. Now, I love black comedy, and there are moments in this movie that just didn't quite work for me, but there are also moments that did. There are the odd moment here and there that really did make me laugh, but it fueled my frustration as well with what I felt like this film could have been. And, the type of movie in which this was, the genre in which this movie is and what it was honouring and what, where they could have gone with it. And there were signs of it, especially with the humour, which, yes, was inconsistent along with other aspects, but it showed there were glimpses and glimmers of what could have been with this movie. Like, there are some funny moments in it, but there are also moments that just didn't quite work for me. But again, I kind of felt like that was stemming from that other issue that I had with this movie, with the inconsistencies around this tone and sort of the direction and that kind of the sensation of feeling they were sort of pulling back. Like, this was uncut, it's an 18 movie, and that got me really excited. And again, don't get me wrong, there are some brutal gory moments in this movie, but I still found myself wanting more. Am I the only one there? I don't know. Let me know below. And perhaps this, that's something that I need to be worried about, with myself, have I been too desensitized to something, too violence in movies? But I just felt myself really wanting more. At the same time, look, I know that I'm going to be in a minority here when it comes to these, gripes that I did have with the movie, these issues that I did have with the movie, because it's doing quite well. Critically, people are really enjoying the movie from what I've seen at a glance. It's got a decent Rotten Tomatoes score, and so I get it. I'm going to be in a minority here. That's just how I personally felt towards this movie. And for me personally, yes, the movie is violent. It's brutal. But I felt like it was also a little bit restrained. Like, it was holding back as well. Even though it is, you get these moments that are, incredibly brutal, incredibly violent. They've got great practical effects on display. But at the same time, I think due to that kind of the issues I had with tone and how clunky and janky that it felt in how it all came together, those moments that we do get just felt a little bit brief. Like, I just felt myself feeling that they should have gone full throttle when it comes to the type of movie that they are making or that they are remaking. I get that the director may want to do something different, add his own flavour or touch, but for me, with the type of movie that they were making it felt oddly restrained. Yes, it's still crazy. It's got, it's wacky ass moments. It's over the top. It's brutal. But it also felt like they should have dialed it up more and just really lent into it. And a lot of those issues stem from the fact that this movie did have issues with its tone, I felt, and how, certain moments didn't quite gel when it came to sort of the other kind of the crazy ass wacky moments, For example, you'll get this animated moment with a fucking chicken drinking this radioactive water, and it's a fucking great moment. It's crazy, but you buy it because this is the type of movie that you're watching, that you're sitting down to watch. But then that moment, or these moments like that, and or moments like the Toxic Avenger slaughtering people inside this diner. And yes, it's glorious when it comes to the practical effects and the violence in those moments, but it still felt restrained. And that does, saying that out loud does kind of concern me a little bit, because these moments are brutal. They are over the top. And it does, saying that out loud makes me wonder, like, is there something wrong with me perhaps? Because it is there. You get these moments, which the film is attempting to remake. This is a splatter film, and it is there. But I just think as an overall experience, as one experience, it just wasn't consistent enough, and it just felt like it was holding back. Like, they weren't quite going full throttle. Like, they really needed to dial it up a little bit more and have it more consistent with that approach of it being a splatter film. Everything just felt a little clunky. It just felt a little janky in the way it all came together. I found myself urging the movie to just go for it. Like, I was sitting there thinking, go on, just go fucking crazy. And even though we get the craziness, it's never the intensity that I felt like a film like this should have been. And again, if I'm probably in a minority there, but that was just my own personal preference, when it came to experiencing this movie. And with all that being said, I still had fun with this movie. Like, I liked it because of, there's a lot that I admired within this movie. Going back to kind of the glimpses, of what could have been here. I mean, there are things about this film that I just found myself really admiring, whether it be the practical effects or, how kind of ultra-violent and crazy that it does go in moments. Right down to sort of really kind of inserting or injecting that heart into the movie with the character of Winston and his son. And I just liked how they really, I felt like they did quite a good job at capturing that kind of trashy B-movie aesthetic and look of the original movie through the cinematography, with how certain scenes are framed and the lighting, how the lighting would hit certain characters in certain moments, and that, they do a really good job at honouring and trying to really kind of recapture the type of movie in which they are remaking you through the cinematography from a technical perspective, like the practical effects. Like, there are a couple of moments where I felt like they went a bit too mad with the CGI, into the point where it got a bit too cartoony. Like, you'd have an incredibly brutal moment, but then you'd have CGI blood splatter on top of it, and I'm just like, oh, really? But again, minor niggles there. So there was a lot that I liked about the film, and it was as a result of that, it was as a result of all those different elements in which I found myself admiring, that kept me locked in. It kept me engaged, because I was just fascinated by what they were trying to recapture you and what they were trying to do differently, even, because you could sense it. You could sense the director, wanting to do something different. But I think that could have played into the issues that I had maybe with the movie. But I was always engaged in what was otherwise a very clunky, awkward experience in how everything just sort of came together. Not everything gelled to create one consistent experience that felt like they were really leaning into the type of movie that they were making you. But there was an awful lot that I appreciated as well from a technical perspective, from, like I said, with the lighting, the cinematography, just how scenes are framed. From that perspective, I think they did a pretty decent job in really trying to capture the look and the feel of those B-movie trashy films, splatter movies from the 80s, the 70s. And I just love the makeup as well. I love how you can still see Peter Dinklage, through the very heavy cartoon kind of like over-the-top makeup. He remains there. You can always still see him. And I think a lot of that is sort of aided and helped by the setup as well. And it's just like, like I said, Peter Dinklage, along with Jacob Tremblay, who plays his son, they do a great job with their characters, to the point where I actually cared about them. Like, I wasn't really expecting that, but I enjoyed the setup. I appreciated what they were trying to do here with its story. But again, it's the kind of the tone within these moments didn't quite work with the overall tone and aesthetic of the experience as a whole. And just the over-the-top silliness of it all, the wackiness of it all. I found like when we weren't getting those moments of over-the-top violence and silliness, I just found myself really missing it, which plays into the issues that I had with the movie's tone and direction. Kevin Bacon as the villain, I liked what he was doing, but I felt like I wanted more of him and just, what was going on there. And that was kind of something that I felt that I was experiencing while watching this movie, was always kind of wanting more from, whatever it be, Kevin Bacon, or just the violence and the silliness. When we are not getting it, I found myself missing it. But there's a lot that I appreciated about the movie, and that is why I remained engaged throughout the entire experience. Another thing that I really liked about watching this film, and sort of, especially on reflection, I felt like, what I really liked is this movie has this kind of old-fashioned spirit of revenge movies of an era gone by. I think it does somewhat capture that, of revenge movies, and especially trashy B-movie revenge movies from a certain era. I think you can sense that there within the frame, within the experience. And I also really appreciated that. I think it never really fully ignites due to the clunkiness and the issues that I did have with it, but it's there. The soul of the movie is there within it, but it just didn't fully ignite. Perhaps that's the best way to explain it for me. So yeah, I think I've rambled on enough about this one. I do recommend it. I recommend checking it out. Be quick. I don't think it's going to be in the cinemas long. Trying to catch a showing, in fact, was pretty hard because they are very limited showings. But I'm glad I caught it. Like I said, it was a pleasant experience. It wasn't unpleasant. I had fun with it. I liked it, and a lot of that was because of what I've already mentioned about how the film was crafted and what they were attempting. Unfortunately, as one whole experience, it was lacking the punch and the impact that I really wanted from this type of movie. But I think that I'm definitely going to be in a minority. That, like I said, I think a lot of people are enjoying this movie. They're loving it. But for me, I just feel like they needed to dial it up a little bit more and kind of really lean into what it was that they were attempting to honour and remake, really. So yeah, they are my thoughts on the Toxic Avenger. And I would be giving the Toxic Avenger... my thoughts on the Toxic Avenger, but what do you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or are you like me? You know, you liked it, it was okay, but it felt like it could have really have sort of pushed it a little further? Then let me know below in the comments and let's get a discussion going. And if you've made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to watch future movie reviews from just some random Welsh geek rambling on, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. I am very behind on reviews at the minute. I do apologise. Just certain things have cropped up in life that have kind of stalled things when it comes to the channel. But I do plan on catching The Roses, as well as The Conjuring Last Rites, which releases this weekend. I can't believe it's Thursday already at the time of recording this anyway. And I am looking forward to The Conjuring. I didn't catch the last movie, but I've seen the first two, and I really liked the first two movies. The first one being the stronger one. And I just liked what Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson have been doing with their characters here within these movies, you know, playing the Warrens. And so I am looking forward to checking that out. And I also got my spoiler-filled review of Alien Earth Episode 5 on the way. In space, no one. An incredibly fun episode. It was great. I really, really enjoyed it. It was a great experience watching that last night for the first time. I'm going to watch it again and I'll have a review up for that episode over the weekend. And just another massive thank you to everyone that is supporting the channel, to the most recent subscribers. Welcome to the channel and thank you for joining me on this journey. I really do appreciate it. I will always be overwhelmed. I know I say this every time, but I am honestly, truly overwhelmed that so many of you do want to follow just some random Welsh geek ramble on about film and TV. But I absolutely love doing this. I really do enjoy it. And like I've said before, you know, what this channel does for me personally, it just does an awful lot for me personally, and one day I may do a video just to sort of touch on that. But yeah, enough rambling. That's it from me for now. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'll be catching you guys soon.